Welcome, this is Jim, host of the Faith Influencer podcast, where we're going to dive into discussions on faith's role in everyday life, from navigating blended families to overcoming challenges. I'm a husband, a father, a Bible teacher, an advocate for applying faith to everyday life. So tune in as I share personal stories, valuable insights, and practical wisdom. Welcome back to Faith Influencer. This is your podcast for blended families. We cover many things, marriage, children, all of that, but it is a blended family podcast. And today I want to talk about some truth bombs for blended families, but I'm going to in particular talk about the truth bomb as it's related to the children inside of blended families. Now, sometimes in a blended family, parents become angry at their children because they don't understand why their children are responding to their new step-parent like they are. Well, I'm going to drop some truth bombs about that today. Now, I want to say that sometimes truth isn't always friendly. Truth isn't always neat and nice and put together. Sometimes truth reveals what's messy and what's underlying and what's difficult. And so some of the truth bombs I'm going to share with you today is that very, very thing. It's going to be some things that sound harsh and a little unfortunate, but it's real. So truth bombs for blended families. Let me start with truth bomb number one. We're going to spend most of our time here. Here it is. Let me just drop the bomb right now. Your kids may never fully accept your new partner. Truth bomb. They may never do it. It may never happen. I'm going to tell you why as we go through this, but that's the truth bomb. They just may never accept them. You so desperately want them to love your new partner, but they may never do it. You so desperately want that cohesiveness. It may never happen. Now, you ought to be able to control the household so that it's not a disruption, but you can't control their hearts and you can't control how they're thinking about these things. And that's the truth bomb. Sorry to drop it, but it may never happen. There may always be divided loyalties, missed connections, hurt feelings. That's just standard stuff around a blended family when we bring together children. So I want to read a little thing to you that I read the other day that speaks to this. This was a lady sharing. She said, we stayed up into the wee hours of the morning working through a problem and identifying ways we could better connect with each other's children. So you get what's going on here. Hey, blended families, I don't even have to talk about this because really you know that that's the discussion you're having. How do we connect with each other's children? I want to say, I'm just glad the lady who shared this, I'm just glad they're having the discussion because oftentimes people are unprepared. I'll talk about that again in a minute. So she went on. We talked about our parenting styles. We talked about disciplining children. We talked about our expectations with each other's children. She said, we talked about step-family dynamics. We talked about co-parenting and child development. And she said, we fell asleep sometime around 4 a.m. And then here's the truth bomb. This is her last sentence. She said, this morning, I woke up knowing that my husband was right. No one wants to be in a blended family. No one wants to be in a blended family. Now, when I first read that, I wanted to throw my arms up and say, that is not true. It is true. It is true if you know what she's saying. And what does that mean? No one wants to be in a blended family. Well, think about this. How are blended families brought together? They're born out of grief. Are you following me? They're born out of grief. They're already singed with failure. They're messy. They're complicated, and they're exhausting. I told you truth bombs aren't always nice. That's just the truth about a blended family. How does a blended family happen in the first place? Because you've gone through a divorce. That's what I'm talking about when I say no one wants to be a part of a blended family, because what it takes to get to a blended family means you got to go through the heartache of a breakup somewhere. Your kids have to go through a divorce of their mom and dad. So no one wants to be a part of that. That's the point. No one wants to be part of a blended family because of what happened to get to the blended family. So the children didn't choose this family. I want to take a minute and help you parents to be a little more understanding of your children by giving you their perspective. When you're talking to a child and you walk through child psychology courses and you're interviewing children and to get through your degree, and I say that because I've been through that, you learn that there's a whole perspective there that parents don't understand unless you've been through it as a child. There's a whole different perspective there. I want to give you a little bit of that perspective concerning children. So here's one. When you bring in a blended family and you bring kids together, well, I've done that in my family. My wife had two, I had two, and now we have one together who's a teenager now. But when you bring a blended family together, all of a sudden your household is louder. Your household is noisier than it ever was. It's a lot noisier than it ever was with me when I just had two children. Now we got five of us. Trust me, it's a lot. It's busier. It's noisier. That's one. Children didn't choose that necessarily. Let me tell you something else it does. Maybe you haven't even thought about this. You know what else a blended family does? A blended family reduces the attention that each child gets. Because now, where I was giving my attention to my two children, now there's five of us. Now I have to share my attention with five children, not just two. So attention is divided. Your child didn't choose that with your blended family. To that attention that they loved getting with mom and dad now is divided between all of these siblings. They didn't choose that. To be divided. They didn't choose to have step siblings who now get their father's attention. They didn't expect now to have new adult love because they have a step parent in the family. Your children didn't choose that. Have you ever thought about it from your child's perspective? That's the truth bomb. Why your child may never accept your new partner. Now, there's another issue why your child may never do it, and it's called the loyalty bind. Your child, from the child's perspective, listen, adults, this will help you understand what your child is going through. It'll help us be a little more understanding. Your child is feeling this pull of loyalty. You don't know it because probably they don't even know how to verbalize it. Even if they would tell you, they don't know how to tell you. So there is this loyalty bind that's pulling them apart. Let me describe it to you here in just a second. So when you enter and blended into a blended family, here's part of the dynamics. That a step parent brings new expectations. A step parent brings unfamiliar traditions, or they bring unfamiliar habits into the family. So everything's changing. You see what's going on with the kid. The kids love status quo. One of the things where children find more security is in sameness. I'm just telling you, in status quo. When you have rituals and routines, children love that. When you have the same bed routine at night with your children, that is so secure to them. When you go through divorce and then all of a sudden you blend a family and that routine has been disrupted, that creates insecurity for your child. Again, they're not telling you this. They don't even know how to tell you. A child can't say there and say, Dad or Mom, I'm feeling insecure because all the things we did for years, we don't do anymore. Those routines, they can't verbalize that to you. So let me just say that one of the ways that you can help your child in a blended family is to create routines. And for you and your biological child, you don't have to give up those routines like a bedtime routine. You don't have to quit those. Just remember that if you do quit those, it's going to create insecurity. So the the step parent brings all of these changes when they come naturally because they're different. They were raised different. It's all different. Um, so what happens is that this new step parent becomes a trigger for grief. That's how your child sees it. They're like, everything was fine until they were here. That's what your child says. Everything was good until you got married, and now they want to change everything. Now we're not gonna eat around the table. They want to go outside. They want to eat out all the time. They want to do whatever. They're making all of these changes. Everything was fine until they were here. This is what your child is feeling, and you don't know that your child is feeling this. But that's why I'm dropping these truth bombs today. Your child is also thinking that every time they see your new partner, their step parent, it reminds them that they're no longer with their other biological parent, that this person's now in the house and their biological parent is no longer here. They're a reminder of that. Now, it's unfair that a child would hold that against a step parent, but we're not talking about fair. We're talking about truth. And so it is that reminder. So, and then the child so often, listen, in child psychology, when you're talking with children divorced, here's one of the struggles that they have. I hope this helps you. One of the struggles that they feel so strongly. I wish I would have known this when I went through divorce and my girls were younger, a lot younger. That was a long time ago. I wish I had known what I'm about to tell you, because then when a few years later I remarried, I wish I knew that my children were feeling pulled, because in the end, my children love their stepmother. But what I didn't know is that loving the step parent presents a loyalty issue for your child. This is from their perspective. It creates a loyalty issue in these ways. In a child's mind, they often feel that if I love dad's new wife, that takes away from my love for my mother, for my biological mother. You say, well, that doesn't make sense. Well, I'm not talking to you as an adult. I'm talking about how a child sees it. A child will feel a divided loyalty. That's a struggle that children often go through. So they feel like if I really accept my new stepmother or my new stepdad, that somehow or another it means I'm rejecting my real mom or my real dad, or I'm not loving them as much if I love my new step parent. That's the divided loyalty that they find, and it might not only be the parent that's no longer in the household. They could be. I'll give you an example in my household. So when I remarried, my girls could easily have thought that if I really love my stepmother, then that's a divided loyalty between my dad. That's how they think. Not necessarily just their mother who's no longer in the household, but even with me who is raising them now with their stepmother, there's a divided loyalty between us. And so a child feels trapped sometimes in a blended family over divided loyalties with who they can love and how much they can love them and how much affection can they show. Sometimes, and this breaks my heart, but sometimes I'll just make up a scenario. Sometimes here's a daughter and she has a new stepmom. And her stepmom's wonderful. And her stepmom is affectionate. And as she's getting to know her stepdaughter, she wants to show affection. And this is what she does. And she says to her stepdaughter, she says to her husband first, hey, I'm giving you real life scenarios over and over and over. And some of you listening, comment. She says to her husband, I'm going to take your daughter, I'm going to take her shopping Saturday morning. And let's say it's a 12 or 13-year-old daughter. And so he says, that'd be amazing. Stepdad's all about it because stepdad wants I mean, because biological dad wants his biological daughter to love the stepmom. And so if they spend time together, that's going to create more of a bond. And so stepmom goes to her stepdaughter and says, honey, I got something exciting. I got a surprise for you tomorrow. In the morning, I'm going to take you shopping. I already talked to your dad about it. He's fine with it. Let's go shopping and have fun. And stepdaughter may be excited about that, but she's in conflict. I'm just telling you how children think. She's in conflict because is this showing disrespect to her biological mother because she's going shopping with her stepmom? Should I do that? This is all the conflict that's going on inside of her. So this is what oftentimes in a blended family, when it's really messy, that we're not understanding. We're not understanding this perspective that a child has because they didn't choose this. And what had to happen for them to get into a blended family is still very hurtful. That's all of the conflict. So I'm trying to make us aware from the child's point of view of some of the things going on. Now I'm going to take a little different direction with this, and because we're talking about truth bombs, and adults are so many times wildly unprepared for a step family. Wildly unprepared for a step family. Not long ago, I was speaking at a conference for step families, and some of the things I was saying, they were looking at me like I was crazy because they were just beginning their new step family. Well, they don't think that now. Wildly unprepared for what is about to hit them in their new family. So let me say it this way. Your first family before you went through divorce, first family examples of what a family looks like are all around us. That's what we think of. This is what a family looks like. But first family strategies are out the window in a blended family. Okay? Truth bomb. First family strategies are out the window in a blended family. First family strategies do not work. I'm just trying to say it stronger and stronger. First family, before you went through the divorce, first family strategies do not work in blended families. I'm saying it strong, truth bomb. And how can I be so straightforward with that? Because studies have proven this over and over. And that's what I want to do now. I want to jump to a study. So there are different ways that step families begin. I love this study, and I've seen it often. And I'm going to lean on this study, and it is the study that shows first family attempts at creating a blended family. So you already know that it's not going to work. According to a 10-year study done on step families, done by Dr. James Bray, he concluded that there are three very distinct step family types that emerge over time. I find this fascinating, partly because I can relate because I've been through it. And then in the whole counseling world, I see it all the time. And I think you're going to find it fascinating too. Actually, I've mentioned a few of these briefly in previous podcasts, but let's dig into them a little more. So you're up to speed here on what I'm talking about. This is a study done over 10 years about the three different types of step families. One is the romantic type. Now, that's a strange title. When I read that, I'm like, what are you talking about? How is that a distinct step family type? Romantic. And this is what he said after 10 years of study. I'm going to read it. He says, the romantic type of step family almost always fails. Wow, that was a truth bomb I wasn't prepared for. So now I want to know what is the definition of a romantic type of step family that never makes it. He says, studies have shown over 10 years the romantic type of step family that always fails is the step family that came together because a man and a woman romantically were attracted to each other. That was it. It's lust. It's I'm attracted to this guy, I'm attracted to this girl, and we're gonna get married. That basis of a step family ends up in divorce almost every time. He goes on and explains why. He says, because they fail to acknowledge the reality of the underlying issues of a step family. They haven't even considered that. This is all just based on physical attraction. And I want to be with you, and I want to be with you. You see, here's what happens. Can I scream right now? Because this is what happens. Here's a guy and here's a girl, and however they meet, I don't know. They've been through a divorce, they each have children, and they're attracted to each other. And then this is what they're going to do. After attraction, let's just say they put it off for a little bit and they date. And then, and they don't know, they haven't seen each other's kids. They don't know anything. They're just attracted to this person. They've been missing this because they've been through a divorce. And now here's someone who cares about them. And I care about them. And there's this romantic attraction. So now they sleep together. They want to have sex together. That's where this goes. So now they have sex together. Well, when they have sex together, guess what happens? Now this creates an emotional bond. And they think, oh, I finally found my soulmate. That's what they say. I finally found my soulmate. It was so good. And they love the attention and they love all of this. And they're together all the time and they're going through all of this stuff. Well, that's wonderful. But they never considered the fact that once you get married, you have children and you have a step family and you have real life issues now that you're not even thinking about because all you can do is just lust over each other. And now you've physically you sex and all of these things and you think this is what I've missed my whole life. Well, you're going to be sorry because this family, says Dr. Bray, is going to divorce court. You're not going to make it. So that's the romantic family that just bases it on physical attraction. That's number one. Number two, he's given step family types. Here's the second one, and it's the matriarchal family. Now, I've seen this one and I laugh because I'm thinking of a gentleman in particular. And unlike most, theirs has survived and now they're in their 70s. But looking from the outside in, they only survived through gritted teeth because they're not happy. They just stayed together. But most don't stay together. Here's the matriarchal. Are you the romantic where you just came together because of physical attraction and you didn't consider what a blended family is going to look like? That's one. Two, or are you the matriarchal? The matriarchal, this is how Dr. Braid describes it. He said, matriarchal step families survive, but many fail. And here's how they're characterized. They're characterized by a very take charge woman. This is the matriarchal. They're characterized by a take charge woman and a man, usually without kids of his own, who's drawn to her because of her competence. If you're watching this on YouTube, you see that this silly grin came across my face right now. If you're listening, I'm just describing this grin came across my face because I really know what's going on here. He's drawn to this matriarchal woman because she's take charge, because she's competent, because she gets things done. Boy, do I know some guys like this. You know what they really did? They married mama. They married a woman who's going to take care of them. In a matriarchal family, you know how that's described? She pays the bills. She disciplines the children. She makes the decisions. Everything is centered around her. Why? She's the matriarch. She's the leader of the pack. She's large and in charge. And there are some men who think they want that. So here's how they see it. So here's a man who sees this woman and she talks fast and she talks with confidence. I'm not against that. So don't give me a message that I talk fast and you're not. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a man who is attracted to a woman. And because she is competent and takes charge, he thinks, wow, I want that. She's got everything together. She's got it all lined up. But Dr. Bray says that these type of families um, fail very soon when they all of a sudden realize that she's not attracted to this guy she married because he's just a wimp. He's just another one of her children. Now, they never sensed that when he thought she was so competent that he was really wanting someone to control him and someone to oversee him and all of these things. But that doesn't last because who's attracted to that? And you think this woman's going to be attracted to a guy who has no drive? No, not at all. And here's the last one. The last one's what Dr. Bray calls neo-traditional. Neo-traditional step family almost always make it. Okay? This is the one you want. They almost always make it. Why? Because they get prepared for the step family. First of all, they acknowledge that there's going to be all these underlying issues. Thankfully, Lanny, my counselor, walked me through all of this before I remarried. And then not only do they understand these issues, but they acquire the skills to have a successful blended family. So this is the family, the blended family that makes it. So listen, blended families out there. If you want to survive as a blended family, the blended family that survives are the ones that's honest about how your children are going to feel, honest about the underlying issues, and you take necessary steps to address them and deal with them. You get prepared for your step family. That's who survived this. So there are the truth bombs. I'm looking forward to your comments. As always, thanks for joining us at Faith Influencer. This is Jim Cunningham. Catch you next time.